We have the population. So let me go back to, what you said about the fact that we have more companies that were leaving Nigeria in the first place to neighboring countries coming back. Why are they coming back? Is the environment more favorable now for them? Have the challenges that manufacturers, once upon a time still talk about, even not once upon a time, they still talk about, have they been eradicated?
No, the challenges have never been eradicated. We all still have power problems. I think if I look at it last week, I barely had power for one day in my house. So that one has not gone away.
But business is good.
Now, but business is better and it's growing. Because policies, let's be fair, even to the government, sometimes we like to bash them. I myself am one of the biggest bashers of the government. But sometimes I'll say those policies over the years are finally germinating good seeds. Now, in terms of, and let's narrow it down again, and the figures also point out the cement industry again, unfortunately. The cement industry is growing faster than we could all imagine. Now, the cement industry is growing, but good news is not growing faster than the beverage industry anymore. Now, but when you look at it, the policies were there to suit them. So the policies, irrespective of the problems around them, because you had cement industry building gas plants of 100 megawatts, 150 megawatts. These are huge investments on their own power plant. Now, that's infrastructural constraint, but someone is building a 100 megawatts power plant. Now, but he was only able to do so because the cost of gas in Nigeria is relatively very low. Now, that itself is an enabling factor for someone to invest in gas plant. Gas plants are not cheap, but if you look at it compared to the cost of diesel, your time of recovery now, at statistically stated now, is that if you put your money in a gas plant compared to buying diesel, you recover your money within 18 months to 24 months. Now, if you put it even into CNG, which is now available, which is compressed natural gas, which is they're bringing it to you in canisters, it's calculated you recover it within 4 years. Now, that is encouraging people to go from moving away from their diesel cost to investing in gas plants. So the enabling factors are getting better. Maybe not as good as they should be, because all of us should not go and buy gas plants. We should have actually put a system whereby clusters can buy a gas plant and share it within. But the licensing of that is not that easy. I've met few manufacturers and I believe the last industrial meeting of the LCCI, which I was involved, quite a few complaints were on even licensing to share from other people that had the gas plant for their own industry, to just buy gas from them.
So there's still red tape issues.
Yeah, so the red tape issues have to really die down. So if we can try and reduce these red tapes and allow power to become something we don't all individually as manufacturers have to keep buying gas plants. I think that would also speed in the pace at which this infrastructural deficiency we all keep shouting about will start relieving itself. And then we can see more growth over those in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 quarters.
Okay, so now let me take you back to that RENCAP report. The manufacturing sector, they said, recorded 22% growth in 2013, as against 14% in 2012. And it was largely driven by textile, cement, and food subsectors. You've mentioned cement and you've mentioned food in the conversation we've had in the last couple of minutes, but not textile.
This textile is still a shock for me. I would love to see the defense of that textile industry. We are seeing textile growth, but I think we're not seeing it in the way we always look at textiles. I think there's a massive improvement in the prints, textile prints. There's a massive improvement in that. That is growing, because really the textile print has always been a way of marketing tool or prints for different type of events. So that itself is growing. Now, but the textile industry as a whole also involves other parts of it, and I think that's where the figures come from. Now, the textile industry involves even things like manufacturing, actual tailoring the clothes itself. So the figures is not only just based on you
making them.
Just making, no. I think the major factor that we all keep looking at textile is looking at those that actually just making the cotton, the material. But the industry is actually bigger than just that. The actual tailoring of the material is actually manufacturing process also. So it goes into the figure. So if you take it from that point of view, yes, that has grown because we actually have a lot more companies that actually do mass production and manufacturing of clothing now in Nigeria than we used to have. So the industry, the mix of the GDP figures and what is taken along is more holistic. And before, we all would think of textile industry as purely a figure of how many sheets of and meters of rolls have we actually made in Nigeria.
But then, let me ask you this. We know that for cement companies, we see the equipment, we see the manpower they've had, and also for the food and beverages sector as well. We see the equipment, we see the manpower, but not for the textile industry.
Because you might not see it the same way we all see it. At least for me, I've seen 1 or 2 textile industry on massive scales that have opened in the last 1 or 2 years. And when I look at what they've done compared to what used to be done, it's a different. This is scales of people employing 100 people at a time. Now, for mass cloth production. Now, which mainly goes into things like school uniforms, uniform for all sorts of industries. Now, but these people are now actually manufacturing in massive scales. So you're finding out that now instead of you actually going to individuals and buying one, they're supplying thousands and thousands to shops and to hotels in different places of the country. So that itself is growing and it's coming back on board. And that didn't used to be on board so much in the last 5-10 years, but it's systematically grown back, which I think it's now growing in the pace at which it's going relative to that of the food industry and the beverage industry. It might not grow as fast as them, but other industries are coming up as you go on. And you actually, if you look at some figures, and I don't want to mention names, but if you look at it, if I look at in the last two quarters of last year, last 2 quarters of at least, I can count 2 or 3 projects that are both in the beverage industry that are going in the tune of 4 billion each. Now, and these are projects around even our vicinity here. And that tells you there's a bit of positiveness, which is where I could remember the last time we met. Now, the rebasing has a positiveness to it. And that rebasing figure, even when they rebase it and we also 4%, I said it the last time, it would increase because you cannot rebase a figure and say it's the largest economy in the continent and then not find people that are positive enough to now take their money and invest in it or expand their expectations. So the expectation indirectly also for manufacturing is growing. Even for us, we're also expanding. So everybody wants to expand in Nigeria now.
Mr. Onafowokan, let's take a quick break, catch our breath and come back. We see an expansion. It's a good expansion. But we still see a high rate, unemployment rate, and it still seems as if the value chain, that's the small enterprises that still make up the manufacturing industry, are not particularly happy. Okay. We'll talk about that in a moment.
Thank you.
You're watching Business Morning on Channels Television, and we're coming to you live from our studios here in Lagos, Nigeria. On the program today, our focus is on manufacturing, and I've been having a conversation on the sector with the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Coleman Wires and Cables, Mr. George Onafowokan. He's going to be here with me when I return in just a moment.